Okay, now we're recording. Take 101. I think we're working. Action.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us at today's rabbit workshop. I'm Chad Dolan. I'm the new Washington County Rabbit Superintendent. And today, we're going to give you a pretty good rundown on rabbits. Just to give you a little bit of background on myself, I've been involved with rabbits for about 10 years now. My oldest daughter's been involved in the 4-H rabbit program for about 7 years, and prior to that, had a few rabbits as a Clover kid. So learned a lot about rabbits over that time period. Didn't know much when we first started, but learning more every day. So as you can see, we have quite a nice little panel of people, parents, kids, to talk about rabbits today. I'm going to let each of those people introduce themselves, starting with Amy Sarah Richardson.
Hi, I'm Amy Sarah Richardson. I'm a volunteer with Bows and Bullets 4-H, and I'm Caroline's mom.
Hi, I'm Caroline Richardson, a member of Bows and Bullets 4-H, and I've been in it for 3 years.
My name is Kylie Dolan, and Chad is my dad. This will be my 7th year showing in 4-H. I'm a member of the Washington Go-Getters and also a first-year member of Washington County Council.
Hi, my name is Hunter Robertson. I'm a 5th-year member of the Lion Creek Live Wires, and this is my 5th year in the rabbit program.
Hi, I'm Mike Todd. I am a committee member. I help Chad in the rabbit department.
So today, let's talk about goals of the workshop. I really think it's, aimed at providing a learning opportunity despite the pandemic that we're all dealing with, and to teach new and young 4-Hers new things about rabbits, and really to inform people about where they can go to learn more. If you reach out to Amy Green here at the Extension office, she can give you a link for some videos that we developed that kind of highlight different subjects about rabbits. So speaking of those videos, I'm just going to go through those a little bit. Everyone here was asked to do a video about a different rabbit subject. They included why start a new rabbit project, rabbit breeds, rabbit equipment, rabbit care, illnesses that you might see in rabbits, breeding rabbits, and then what to do on rabbit show day. So as far as why to start a new rabbit project, it really teaches responsibility as well as many life lessons. It focuses the energy of young people on something productive and positive, and then helps prepare kids for many situations they'll encounter throughout life. So with that, I'm going to go to Kylie just to discuss her rabbit breed video.
Hi, everyone. So again, I'm Kylie. So I put together a video of all 50 rabbit breeds, and it's in the form of a PowerPoint, and each slide has each rabbit breed, and they're all in alphabetical order. And each slide includes a couple bullet points about the rabbit breed and specifically like kind of difficulty level of raising that breed, because some are a lot better for new 4-Hers. So I will show you my rabbit breeds that I raise.
Kylie, maybe you could even come closer if there's some parts of the rabbit you want to accentuate, because I can't zoom in very well now.
Okay, I'll bring her closer. So this is my Holland Mop. Her name is McCartney. So as you can see, the Holland Mops are known for their floppy ears and then the big round head. And she's still pretty young, so she's still growing and developing. And I can see.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay, so these guys, she's only about 3.5 to 4 pounds, and that's all the bigger that the Holland Mops get. So she might not pose for me. but these guys, they typically pose with their head up off the table, and then they have a really rounded, compact body. So she's not cooperating today.
She looks big, but she's a new baby, right, Kylie?
Yes, she is only about 6 months old. So, but she won't grow anymore. She's pretty much hit her max weight. So, and I can show you my other breed. Okay. So this guy, he's actually new to my rabbitry. We've only had him a couple months. He's a Rex. So this is you guys might have heard of the mini Rex, and Hunter will talk about those in a little bit. But this is a regular, like a standard Rex. So he is about 9.5 pounds. And the Rex, the does get about 10.5. That is their max weight. The bucks shouldn't be over 9.5. So they're a little bit bigger of a breed. And they do need a larger cage space. He's a broken lynx. That's the name of his color. And I'm still learning about these guys. I wouldn't consider myself an expert in them at all. But they've been really fun to raise and learn more about. And I've gotten to meet a lot of new people by branching into a new breed. Hunter might talk about it too, but these guys are known for their coat. They have a really dense velvety coat, which is that's my favorite part about them. They're super friendly, but they are a little bit harder to handle just because they are a bigger breed.
Okay, Caroline, you
Yeah.
come up and
So
show
then
your-
Caroline and Hunter will talk about their breeds.
Caroline Richardson's gonna come up and talk about her Netherland dwarf.
This is my,
Okay. There we go. There you go. There you go. I'll focus on the rabbit. There you go.
this is my Netherland dwarf, Cash. She is, not very old, 5 months. She is going to go to show. She is the rabbit that we are gonna send to show. She also, when you have Netherland dwarfs, they don't get very big. They should be around 2 pounds to 2.5 is how big they should get. They're not big animals, not big rabbits, and they should not exceed their weight limit. They also are very small. They should be not given lots of food. They also, Netherland dwarfs are a breed that do not have that much docility as it is to the rest of breeds. They are kind of jumpy. So this one, she won't pose because she's lazy, but she does have one of the docility key features that you need to breed or show. She will do well because she has the coat that you should have, the nice, and it should be a little shiny, but not too shiny. They should be nice and, small. Don't get them too large. They should have, undercoats, and they should be kept taken care of. Done.
Show your baby.
My baby.
Yep.
Caroline also brought in a baby dwarf.
It's actually a mini.
I mean, mini satin that she can show.
This is my baby mini satin. It's around a month and a half old. We don't have names or tattoos yet for this one. It was it's not old. We don't know what gender it is. It's when it comes to mini satins, they do get big. This is just a baby right now, and you want them to have a nice shiny satin coat. That's how it should be, nice and soft, but also nice glossy. They have big ears, but you don't want them to exceed how big they get. You also want to keep them away from other rabbits because they are more of the docile kind. Unlike this one's running away.
So would other rabbits pick on it because they're nicer or not necessarily?
Not really, but this one is more of a runaway kind. So you want to keep the ones who run away separate from the ones who don't, because they do tend to run away from their litter mates. And when they are born, they do like to mess around in their cage.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. All right, so Hunter Robertson going to show his mini rack.
I'm curious, Chad, while he sets up, how does somebody go about picking their breed? If you're just getting started, looking for a rabbit, wanting to expand, like how do you even go about deciding?
Sure, when you're looking for a breed, it's really important to just kind of investigate the different qualities of the breed, and really personality, I think, would be very important for a beginning breeder. Person that's going to raise rabbits, a kid that's looking for, to start a rabbit project. There are some particular running breeds that are very high strung. They require big cages. Their personalities aren't the best, meaning they're not real social. I wouldn't say necessarily they're biters, but a little bit. Some of them, just have a little more aggression. So a little kid that's just starting out, looking for something like a Holland Lops, very docile, mini Rex, pretty docile rabbits. Netherland Dwarfs, you can find, some docile rabbits, but also some high strung, little rabbits as well. So Polish is another good one that, kids like to start a rabbit program with. So again, you're looking for those rabbits that really have the traits that make them easy to handle. A kid handling a Flemish giant rabbit that reaches, 12, 15 or pounds or larger, that's going to be pretty hard for a fourth grader to handle. So just keep in mind those things as you're looking to choose a rabbit.
I did my video on rabbit care, and what I talked about is nail trimming, how to flip a rabbit. And like with these smaller breeds, you just take their ears, put your middle finger behind it and kind of squeeze, and then hold their back end like that, and then flip them over. And then this will help you be able to check their nails, their ears, and their teeth. And that's something I explained in the video. Yeah, it's a little hard. He's a little feisty today. But so this is my buck mini Rex Broken, and he's about maybe a year old. And I use him as a demonstration in the video with nail trimming, checking ears for the
Come closer.
illnesses and diseases.
I think he's camera shy, maybe.
Maybe.
Is that possible?
Yeah, but so just in the video, I talked about feeding, cleaning, and just like messing with your animal. Because if like, say this rabbit, if I want to pose him, I'm going to have to do that often so that he's ready for show, because it's going to be kind of annoying if the judge is trying to pose your rabbit and he just keeps running over the table. But with the mini Rex specifically, the highest point of their back is going to be in between their legs right here. So right about here should be his highest point, and that's where it is for him. So whenever you pose them, you just want them to be in a ball. And then, as she said earlier, that like they got like nice velveteen coats, and it really depends on what kind of color you have. Because like with the reds, the darker color or the darker red is better than that lighter red color. And I'll be right back. I'm gonna go grab that red.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, rabbits will pose better when you practice that pose with
Yes,
them.
You certainly should be practicing posing your rabbits a lot. You can see we've had some that are pretty young rabbits, and they just need to be put on the table and handled a little bit and posed, and just kind of repeat that process over and over and eventually the rabbit just learns what it needs to do. So that's very important to handle your rabbit often. Sometimes, honestly, you'll run into a rabbit that's just a little more wild and may give you a little more trouble. And that's something that you just have to be aware of. Again, when you're selecting a rabbit, and perhaps when you move into breeding rabbits, you're going to be selecting for traits that are going to be conducive to showing.
Now I have my doe or Mini Rex Red. Her name is Chelsea. She's a new to our rabbitry. We got her 2 weeks ago. So, and when you're breeding the Mini Rex, you're gonna want to put the doe with the buck because the does will get territorial. And from one of our like buyers or whatever, they had a buck die because they put it in with the doe. So these guys are the does are really territorial. So this
So
one,
they don't want anybody coming in their cage.
Yeah.
No bunny, no body.
Mhm.
You need to move them instead
That's
of.
not your hand.
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
And make sure whenever you're taking the doe out, you wear gloves because they will bite after that. But it just depends on your rabbit if it's docile or not. So this is Chelsea. She was supposed to go to Mini Rex Nationals, but was canceled due to COVID. And this is a really, really nice rabbit. She poses really well, and she's going to be one of our main breeders for our rabbitry. And if you just look at her really quick, she's got a really nice coat and can ball up really nice. But you don't want to like squish them up too much, but you need to have like a little bit of length to it. So something similar to that. She's wanting to lean a lot today. And a trick that I learned, if like, I learned this from Julie Stewart. She's 4th in the country in Mini Rex. That's where we got her. But like, if your rabbit's not cooperating right, just go pick it up and drop it a couple times like that, and then try and pose her again. And if it doesn't work, just try again.
Like imagine if you're trying to do a ridiculous stretch that your body really doesn't want to do, you kind of got to stretch it out. So
Mhm.
you're stretching it out and then giving it another try. Right?
Mm-hmm. So if I can just hold her head right there, that's basically what the judge will do. So you want to practice that. It's just going to make it easier for the judge and make it look like you worked more with your rabbit. Because I've seen sometimes at fair, you can definitely tell they didn't mess with their rabbit. So.
And Hunter, I'm not sure anybody's referenced this, but I've seen everyone do this. You are putting your hand over their face and eyes. Can you explain why that is?
Okay, so basically, what I was told whenever I was younger, put your eyes over their, or your hand over their eyes so that they can't be scared of what they can't see, is what I've been told. And whenever I pick it up, what you do is you're supposed to put their head in like your armpit area or a little bit lower because they won't freak out then. Because you see, if I'm walking around right here, she's not really moving. But if I go like that, she's gonna maybe freak out or something like that. So.
Okay. Good. Thank you. And I hope everyone watching is thinking of questions too. I keep interjecting, but we are definitely going to have some opportunity for you to ask some questions here once our presentations are done. So keep making those lists at home.
So our next video that we posted for everybody to view is on rabbit equipment. So we're going to have Kylie Dolan come back up and just give you a few quick highlights of that video.
Hi. Okay, so I did a video over just general rabbit equipment that you might need when you start raising rabbits. So I don't have any here, but you can see in the video that I made, I showed my water bottles and then food dishes that I use. And I guess I'd just say definitely use water bottles. We've tried using dishes for water before, and the rabbits usually end up dumping those and getting themselves wet, and they're not fun to clean. So that'd be the only thing with that. I also just talked about like different cage sizes depending on the size of your rabbit. And then I talked about grooming equipment. So I did bring a wire brush and then a hacksaw blade. So the wire brush I use for my Holland Lops, and they're good to use for any longer haired rabbit. They can be used for the Netherlandorfs, but I typically use the saw blade for most of them, especially for the Rex, since they have, and the Rex and the Mini Rex, because they have that denser velvet coat. you don't want to use a wire brush because it will damage their coat. So the saw blade just has really fine, it's really fine and doesn't go all the way into their coat, and it just pulls out all the dead hair that is on your rabbit. I also brought a nail clippers. So these open and they're kind of like a scissors. And I found that they're much easier to use than you might have seen like a dog nail clippers that you put the nail in and then it's almost like a guillotine type clipper. That's what I compare it to. I found that those are just really difficult to use, especially when you're first starting. Because if your rabbit moves or kicks or anything, you're likely to maybe like cut the nail too short and then have to deal with the bleeding, stuff like that. So the scissors one is just a lot easier to see where you need to cut the nail, and then you can pull away quicker if they do kick or wiggle. And then I also brought a lint brush. So the lint brushes are good for the rabbits and for you. I always have one, especially at a show. And then I actually use these for the Rex. When they're molting, it's really easy to lightly like roll them off with the lint brush. And that just gets a lot of the really loose hair out of their coat. And then I also use it for me for my shirt. When I'm showing if my rabbits are molting, you get covered in hair pretty quick. And then I just brought hand sanitizer. Especially now, if you're going to a show with COVID, you definitely want that. And we always have it in our show box just to use in between rabbits, in between showing, and it keeps helps from like spreading one thing from another rabbit to another, especially when you're around other people's rabbits at a show. You might be moving their rabbits to different holes on the show table. So then it just keeps everybody clean, keeps the rabbits healthy. So
Kylie, if I could interject, what happens if you do cut the nail on a rabbit too far back and it starts to bleed? What do you do? Or what can you do?
Okay, so on a rabbit's nail, they have a quick, and it's pretty far back on the nail, and especially on lighter, like if you have like a white rabbit or a rabbit that's lighter color, it's a lot easier to see because you can see the pink part. It's a lot harder on like Caroline's rabbits that are black because they have black nails. So you kind of just have to like gauge where it is and not cut too far back. And if you do end up cutting the quick, I usually use like a cloth or even paper towels to just hold on the nail and kind of stop the bleeding. And then Mike Todd actually taught us a trick. You can use cornstarch to kind of, like clot the blood. And that actually, I've used that a couple times to stop it.
How often do you clip their nails?
Oh goodness. It's probably good to cut them. I check them every month and sometimes they don't need clipped, but I found that some rabbits' nails grow a lot quicker than others and they do need clipped about once a month. Some of them can go about 2 months, but I guess you just want to check every once in a while. Especially with the bigger rabbits, they're prone to sore hocks, and keeping their nails short can help that a lot. And then if their nails do get too long, some rabbits will get them caught and then actually pull their nails out. You don't want that to happen because sometimes they won't grow back. And if they're missing a nail, they can't be shown. So you just want to just pay attention and keep that in mind when you're raising them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Kylie. Next is Hunter Robertson. He's going to talk about just general rabbit care.
Okay, so in my video, I talked about feeding, like cleaning, and just checking the rabbit for like the nails and the ears for illnesses and stuff like that. So for feeding, we feed our mini Rex rabbits a fourth of a cup 2 times a day, and we use these feeders for most of our rabbits, and we just pour it in there. It's got like a little wire on the bottom, and that'll like get all the dust and stuff out of there because they eat their food better when there's not as much dust on it. And then for our water, as she said with the pans, we have a little clip on the bottom, and it clips to the bottom of the wire so they won't flip it. And then, so this guy, he will usually flip his water if it's not like this. That's what we found these from Wolf's rabbit equipment thing. And that's where we buy most of our cages from. So with feeding, when you're switching foods, you want to mix it a tiny bit each day and then convert over to the new food. Because if you switch it too fast, it will can make the rabbit have diarrhea or can just make the rabbit feel really, really crappy. And then for the
And why would you switch food?
so like if you started off with a certain food, but you found one with like that was better for the rabbit breed that you have, because there's different foods for different rabbit breeds.
Okay.
And if you want to switch, you don't want to just go from one feed to right to the next, because it could, as I said earlier, hurt him. But
Sure.
and you especially don't want to do it in the like winter time whenever they need food. So, and then for cleaning, we try and clean once or at least every weekend, if not every other weekend, just because sometimes we're busy on our farm with all the other animals. But so just I said earlier, if you want to check, you're going to flip it. And then with the rabbit nails, you're going to put your finger, like I'm going to put my thumb right in the middle of his paw.
Let me get closer.
I'm gonna put my finger right in the middle of his claw. And I left one of his nails or one of his feet unclipped, so I can show you his nails. Okay, so you can see the quick in the very back. It's that red spot right there. And so all you'd have to do to clip that is go a little bit above that red spot, and then you'd be fine. And then I think that's all I've got, because she said most of it.
Ooh.
Got him.
Hunter, if I could just step there a minute, what about the summertime? When it's real hot, when it's 95 degrees, do you need to be worried about that with rabbits?
Yeah, the mini Rex rabbits do better in the cold than they do in hot weather. And what we'll do is we'll take water bottles and then we'll put them in the freezer and freeze them and then put them in there. We'll put we'll take frozen water bottles, put them in the cage with the rabbit, and they'll lay next to it and stay cool. And we need to keep them in a cool environment, not out in the sun during the summertime, because that would not work well. Last year, I heard a lot of rabbits got killed because of the heat. So
Fans, you use fans at all too, or
yeah,
not?
we use fans for all of our animals if it's too hot outside.
Excellent.
You talked about the feed, switching feed. Do you give hay?
Yes.
Hay is a really good thing in between feeding. We give feed or hay every other day. Babies that they need hay up until 6 months of age every day. So that's a good thing. But when he talked about switching feed, one of the reasons you switch feed, like he said, for better food quality for development, but a rabbit, all breeds have stomach issues, and their stomachs are real sensitive. So it's really, really important to blend that feed like he talked about. And a lot of times you'll buy a rabbit from a breeder, they should give you a bag of feed. Say it's Purina, let's say he uses Kent. You want to blend them. If you're going to keep using Kent, you want to blend what the breeder gave you to yours. So that is really critical.
And so that would be a good question to ask if a breeder or
Well,
someone you were getting the rabbit from, what
right,
they are
what kind of
feeding.
feed
And
they have.
yep.
And make sure that hay, because when they're molting, Kylie talked about the molt, they're cleaning themselves. That hair is going in their stomach. They can get hair bound. If they don't have the hay to push it out, they'll die
Okay.
because their intestines can't push all the hair out.
So Hunter, if I can ask you too, if you see in your cage, we notice this a bit, say a rabbit molts and the hair gets stuck on the bottom of the cage, and then, of course, the rabbits go in the bathroom, that all balls up and gets gummed up on the cage. Is that something you want to keep up with and kind of clean
Yeah,
off?
kind of clean that as much as you can,
Okay.
because it'll like it's more of a like health issue if you don't get that clean because of all the like bugs or mites and stuff like that can go to the rabbit from that. So you want to try and keep that clean as much as you can.
And fresh water year round.
Mm-hmm.
Always run, don't let them run out of water.
We dump their water every morning and every afternoon and fill it back up every feeding time.
Because when it gets really hot, they don't eat. At the fair, you'll see the kids will have food and water in their cages, but the rabbits won't typically touch it because they're stretched out, they're hot, they're by their frozen water bottle. But at least it's there.
I think you bring up a good point, Mike. I know with some of the other species, when we're talking about fair, that animals can be very picky and not want to drink fair water from the fairgrounds. And so it's very common that people would potentially bring in water from their homes
Yeah,
that
you really should bring your own water.
that the rabbits are used to drinking, potentially, if you can. So if that is an issue that you feel like maybe your rabbit isn't drinking or eating during fair, to make sure they have everything like home, and water is very easy to transport in jugs. So
And the rabbits will eat when they're ready, probably at nighttime when you're not here, when it's cooler.
good.
Good job.
Good. A little closer. So we kind of touched on a few things regarding rabbit illnesses. One of the things that Mike mentioned was a rabbit getting fur bound, and that's a real issue. If that happens, a problem called gastrointestinal stasis sets in, and that's where the gut of the rabbit really just ceases to function or functions very little. You know, one of the first signs, you'll look in the rabbit's dropping tray, and you'll notice that the droppings are very small. They're not normal compared to what you're usually seeing, or there may be no droppings at all. If you see that sort of situation, it is critical. Probably at that point, it's almost too late, but you need to get the rabbit to a veterinarian in an attempt to get that gut moving again. The best way to really deal with gastrointestinal stasis is to avoid it completely. So as Mike said, feed hay often, keep that gut moving. Now, to be honest, despite your best efforts, once in a great while, it just happens, and there's not much that you can do about it. You can try to get that rabbit eating on its own again. That's the other thing. The rabbit really just ceases to eat. So even though at that point you may offer hay, it may refuse it. So just be aware of that and keep that in mind. Mike, do you have something to
Yeah,
add?
I do. On the hay, good grass hay. Alfalfa can sometimes make it worse, but just some good grass hay.
Good grass hay, yep.
Take them off feed and give them hay for 2 or 3 days and hope you can.
Yep, grass hay or
Get
Timothy
them
hay, correct?
Timothy hay is
Yep,
good.
Timothy hay, yep, but alfalfa is not so
It's
good.
not,
Yeah.
some people like it, but it's hard to beat good grass hay for, especially when you have the enteritis. Or even what Chad was saying about their stomachs, you can grab their bellies and you can just lightly touch it and it'll be real rock hard like a ball, almost like a golf ball.
Yes.
That's another way to tell that they're
Yeah.
having trouble.
And that's gas is what that is. And if you look at our video, you can actually see some x-rays of rabbits that have gastrointestinal stasis. And there's large light or white spots in their gut on that x-ray. And that's gas, and that's not normal.
And you talked about the dropping. Sometimes it'll look like a cluster of grapes.
Yep.
I've seen that, and that's a sign you better be doing something.
Yeah. The video, we have a nice little chart, and it sounds gross, but it's a poop chart, and it shows you what the droppings should look like versus what they should not. And it sounds silly, but it's something you really need to pay attention to. So the next disease I'll just mention, and it's pretty common, is ringworm. It's a fungus. You might see a rabbit all of a sudden start to scratch. It has large, almost dandruffy flakes. But, you know, as opposed to dandruff, which might be little flakes, these are big flakes. If you kind of peek into the fur a little bit, you may see some raised areas, some real dry, flaky, almost a yellowish to whitish color. Ringworm, just be careful, that's transmittable to human. You can pick that up from your rabbit. So when you go to treat this, it's best to wear surgical gloves. You're gonna wash the area with a gentle soap and then apply just athlete's foot medicine. But you've got to do it for a couple weeks until you see it disappear. And then probably it's wise to treat for a couple weeks after. Yes, we've got a question.
Can you bring a rabbit with ringworm to the fair even if you're treating it?
I would advise against bringing a rabbit with ringworm to the fair just because it's very highly contagious. We don't want to transmit it to the other rabbits at the fair, or for that matter, other kids or adults as well. So, yeah, Kylie mentioned that in order to treat that ringworm too, you should really shave the fur down to the skin and expose the infected area before you apply the cream. So that's always a good thing to do as well. As far as another disease that's pretty common, eye infections, especially in kids or baby rabbits. So what you might see is the eye closing up a bit. You might see some discharge. It might be clear. It might be kind of pussy looking. You see that, that's an issue. It's fairly easily treatable. Terramycin ointment, which you can buy at your local farm store, is a great way to treat an eye infection. You just squirt a little bit of that ointment on the eyelid and then make sure that it's rubbed all over the eye itself. And that will usually take care of that eye infection in about 5 days. So fairly easy to treat. Related to that are weepy eyes. Now, weepy eyes might be due to an eye infection, or it could actually be a dental issue. It could be an irritant, such as you need to clean your rabbitry. You've got too much ammonia that's irritating the rabbit's eyes. And you'll know that because if you walk in and it bothers you, it's certainly bothering the rabbits. So,
And it bothers their lungs.
yeah, and it bothers their
Not
lungs.
only their eyes, but lungs. Yeah.
Yeah, and respiratory issues for a rabbit, that can lead to other problems, other infections. So that's something that you see weepy eyes. We've also seen it with change of season. So it's not always disease related or health issue related for that matter.
And I've seen it during the molt on white rabbits. They'll get hair caught in their tear duct from shedding, and it'll kind of plug it up, and you got to pull that hair out.
Absolutely. Just like Mike said, could simply be something in their eye. You can often flush out with sterile water solution that you can pick up at your local store, Walmart, and flush that eye. If it's a real severe case, they can be taken to a vet. They might do a better job of flushing the eye out as well. And then hopefully that problem goes away, although it can become chronic. And if it becomes chronic, doesn't mean the rabbit won't live a decent life, but its show days might be over just because the rabbit will look kind of ill, and that can be problematic. One kind of scary disease that we have encountered, and I know a number of people that are involved in the rabbit program have seen, is wry neck or head tilt. So one day your rabbit's fine, the next day you walk out to your rabbitry and your rabbit's head is essentially tilted to one side of the body. And this might be mild, it could be pretty severe, very grotesque looking. It can be treated with injectable terramycin used as ear drops. You can drop those antibiotics in the ear itself. You have to treat it for quite a long time, over 2 weeks. Will it fix the rabbit completely? In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. I wouldn't say the prognosis is excellent by any stretch. But, it's also worth noting, at the point that you discover this, is the rabbit suffering? Do I need to consider taking the rabbit to a vet and consider things like euthanization? Because we don't want that rabbit to suffer if you do see this, but it can be treated. So keep that in mind, but it's best if you treat it right off the bat, as soon as you see any sign of it. We've seen it a couple times over the years. We've raised rabbits. The prognosis, like I said, isn't good for most of those. We did see one we thought was going to develop wry neck, and amazingly came out of it. So my suspicion is it had a little bit of an ear infection. Its own body or immune system fought that disease off, and the rabbit is fine. That is not the norm. Usually it turns out worse. Next disease I'd mention is vent disease. This is a disease spread by rabbits during breeding. So if you're going to get into rabbit breeding, you need to be aware of vent disease. You can have a perfectly healthy rabbitry. My understanding is after you breed 4 or 5 times, you might be purchasing rabbits from other breeders elsewhere, bringing those rabbits into your rabbitry. You just don't know if they might be carrying vent disease. So before breeding, you want to check the genitals of your rabbit. If they have vent disease, often you see scabbing. You might even see, some discharge, might be pussy looking. It just doesn't look normal. You don't want to breed those rabbits until which point you treat them. And they can be treated with injectable penicillin. You might want to consult the veterinarian because you will have to give the rabbit daily injections for about a week or so to get rid of that disease. But if you do that, the prognosis is very good and it doesn't result in any sterility. As far as vent disease, also another sign, you might see what looks like dark colored cauliflower growths around the mouth. And you might see those on the face. If you see those sort of growths, that isn't normal. It's usually a sign of vent disease. So then you need to check the genitals to see what is going on. So be aware of that. The more you breed, the more likely it is that you may run into vent disease eventually.
Ear mites.
Yeah, and Mike mentioned ear mites.
We had that at the fair one year, had someone bring one in with ear mites.
Yes,
And David wanted to send them home, but they said they were treating it, but it's highly, highly contagious. So
right.
most any of these diseases, if we see it at check-in, they'll go home.
Yep.
Because you just can't have it because they can spread to the barn.
Right, and I agree with Mike completely on that. If we're going to be looking for some of these things, and if we see disease come into that rabbit barn, it's just not fair to the herd of rabbits that we have. And of course, some of these, like ringworm, are transferable to humans. So we've got to do the best thing for the rabbits and the people, and that's usually sending those diseased rabbits home until at which point they're treated and then come back in the future.
Did you talk about snuffles?
Snuffles is another one Mike mentioned. Snuffle, that's a difficult one. So usually your rabbit has pretty persistent nasal discharge. It may also have the weepy eyes along with it. It's a respiratory disease. It could be brought on by the fact that you don't clean your trays enough and keep your rabbitry fresh, meaning that you're exchanging air via fan, window, etc. It can also, just be like a common cold, but snuffles is a little bit different, and then it becomes chronic. And when you've got, a rabbit with nasty nasal discharge, it's sneezing a whole bunch. When it sneezes, that's a great way, as we know, via the pandemic we're dealing with, to spread disease, in this case from rabbit to rabbit. And that's something that you've got to be very aware of. Snuffles can be treated. It's a very long treatment. You're going to have to consult with the veterinarian. It's probably going to be a very costly disease to deal with long term. And if it's chronic, you'll never really get rid of it. It'll always be there. So that's something definitely to consider. I talk about a lot of this stuff more in detail in the video I put together on rabbit illnesses. And I would just say, I'm not a veterinarian. So if you've got questions about rabbit diseases, definitely consult with your veterinarian on how to treat it and accurate diagnosis for that matter. But
Cleanliness, clean, clean, clean.
yes, Mike is
You won't
right.
have these problems.
Clean, clean, clean. And the other thing I would say is your rabbitry expands. That's one of the problems that comes along with it. It's a lot easier to transfer disease from rabbit to rabbit, but the more rabbits you got packed in one place. So one of the important diseases that I've got to mention is RHD, or rabbit hemorrhagic disease. Why is this so important? It's a rabbit virus. It's present in wild rabbits. It's moved to domestic rabbits. It's similar, if you've heard of Ebola virus, people get that and they begin to bleed from their nose, mouth. That's what happens in the rabbit. It's deadly. If you have a rabbit with RHD, there is no treatment. It's recommended that the rabbit be euthanized if you get a chance. You probably won't. The rabbit will succumb to RHD very
And all your
quickly.
other rabbits.
And all of your other rabbits, as Mike said, it's going to spread very quickly. It could wipe out your entire rabbitry.
If this disease reaches the border state of Iowa, all shows are off. That's
That is
per our-
correct. We're going to be watching for this. Our USDA does post a live map of where RHD has been identified. The closest right now, Colorado, I think.
Colorado.
It has been seen in Florida and Montana and a lot of really southwestern states. But if it gets really close or into Iowa, our days of showing rabbits are done, at least temporarily. So how do you really prevent that? Keep your rabbitry clean. Mike hit that, mentioned that a whole bunch of times. Keep that rabbitry clean. Be aware when you go to shows, you could be exposing your rabbits to potential diseases. We hope that people from the southwestern United States aren't coming to our shows. There's rules against it.
Yeah. we're not supposed
The
to.
American Rabbit Breeders Association really recommends that they do not do that. They cannot hold shows in areas that are RHD positive, but this one is very extremely important to keep in mind and keep aware because it will shut down rabbit shows as we know them.
And they're even recommending ARBA to not let other people in your rabbitry, just you. It's kind of like going to a hog building with the disease. You wear the same clothes, the same shoes, in and out, and you don't have other people in because it's easily transferred to the rabbits just off your clothing.
That's right. So RHD, we don't intend to scare people. You just need to be aware of keeping your rabbitry biosecure and just being smart. That's all we can do. And if it gets here, we'll have to deal with it appropriately.
And I want to interject too. We stress this with all of the species that one of the important things in having animals or livestock is having a relationship with your veterinarian before you have an emergency. It's a lot easier for them to know your family, to know your rabbitry setup or situation. And we don't expect that they will know every single one of your animals, but you want to make sure who is a vet in our county that we can count on right away if we need to for our rabbits. So if you don't already have someone that you would call if there was a situation, that is something you want to kind of put on your to-do list. And we hope that you will never need to call them or need them, but it's a lot easier if there's an emergency situation that you know who you would call to help you.
Yeah, and that is a great point. And the one thing I'd add to that is try to identify a rabbit savvy veterinarian prior to really having any issues. Every veterinarian out there doesn't know how to treat rabbits, unfortunately. I know of a veterinarian in Mount Pleasant, Iowa, at Northeast Iowa Animal Hospital that is rabbit savvy. The reason is because he had daughters in 4-H, and so he took it upon himself to learn how to treat those animals. And that's the sort of person that you're looking for. So definitely do that, because if you wait until a rabbit does have a disease and take it to your local veterinarian, doesn't necessarily mean they know how to treat it.
If you want more information on this, the ARBA website has a lot of information about this to read more about it, where it's at, recommendations, how to prevent it. So I would encourage everyone to go there
Yes,
and
absolutely.
read up on it.
Definitely read up on it. The American Rabbit Breeders Association website for any of the things that we've talked about is a great idea and a great resource. So next up, we're going to have Amy, Sarah, and Caroline Richardson talk about rabbit breeding.
Hey, everybody. Does anybody need to move? I do, just for a second. I feel like we have had so much good information, and I just want to tell y'all, I don't know how many of you are already in the program, how many of you are thinking about rabbits, but if you are thinking about rabbits, what a community we have here. We have so much expertise at the rabbit program, and we have so many good mentors and friends. And I just want to encourage you, right? Like we have learned so much. We started out in rabbitry because we wanted a small animal. And what do you guys think? We've had an entire hour, right? With no mooing, no oinking,
Right.
nothing stinking in here. Like this is an amazing species. And I think it's easy to forget sometimes that rabbits are livestock. It is important to care for them. Mr. Dolan, Mr. Todd have told us, Kylie and Hunter both talked about it. Sanitation is important, and it's huge in breeding. When we're breeding our rabbits, we don't want to,
No.
it's kind of like a honeymoon, right? You don't want to go on a honeymoon to a dive. You want to go to a luxurious hotel. So we keep our rabbitry clean and we keep our rabbits healthy. The health of the rabbit is important. Not just vent disease, but health, overall health, right? So I don't know about you guys, but during the coronavirus, I have gained weight, y'all. And the weather, the freezing outside did not help because it's so cold, I don't want to walk. Well, it's kind of like that with rabbits. Hunter mentioned he feeds his mini Rex a quarter cup twice a day, did you say? Twice a day. So that's kind of what we feed our Netherland dwarfs. It's a quarter cup of hay pellets, alfalfa pellets, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And our mini Satins get a little bit more than that. With pregnant and nursing moms, they get even more. But if we don't cut back on their food and keep it within that specific range, we get, what kind of rabbits do we have if we feed them too much?
Lazy.
Fat and lazy, right. And nobody likes to be with anybody who doesn't want to do anything. Well, you might, because I don't like to do anything and I have a husband. But I mean, really, for real, rabbits that are more active breed better. So we like to keep them healthy. We don't want to overfeed our rabbits. We also know that when you breed a huge buck and a huge doe,
They get huge babies.
right. And you don't want huge babies all the time. Now, if you have a Florida white, you might not like a nice sized baby. But when you have a Netherland dwarf, just because that's what we breed, you don't want a 3-pound baby. You don't want a 2-pound baby. You want a baby that's going to come out nice and tiny so mom can breed again and make more babies.
It's like that with many sons too.
Yeah, right. We like them within their range, right? Okay, so we want to make sure our rabbits are healthy, our rabbitry's clean. We've got good sized buck and doe appropriate for their breed. And then we want to make sure that we put that doe in with the buck. Like Hunter says, his does are territorial, our bucks are territorial.
Yes,
very. We were talking to Kylie earlier. We have some bucks that just when we walk in our rabbitry, they literally see us coming and they pee on us, you guys. So they're not necessarily the nicest, most courteous gentlemen. So we put the doe in with them, and then it makes it an easier breed. So after we put them in together, we don't leave, right?
No.
Like we hang out, we watch what's happening, we look for their behavior. What do we see when it's first happening in there?
You see them running around chasing each other.
Running around chasing each other. When the deed is done, the buck will fall off. If the buck doesn't fall off, we put it back.
Lake turn.
Next afternoon, next day. We talk about all this stuff in our video from what we do from the beginning to the end. We feel like the most important things are sanitation and health of your rabbit. We also want you to think about what is it that your goal is in breeding. Okay, Caroline had some goals for what we are breeding for specifically, and they may not be the same. There's 4 general reasons you would breed a rabbit: for meat, for pelts,
For show.
and
For breeding.
for pets. Right.
Pets too.
So you have one of those 4 reasons. We breed for show, and Caroline in her 4-H goal have specific qualities she's breeding for. What are you breeding for?
Docility and perfect coats.
That's right. I think Mr. Todd had the standards of perfection out earlier. That's an important thing you want. You can come to the extension office and ask them if you can see the standards of perfection, and and whatever breed you're looking into. Oh,
That's a
yeah.
good one, but-
Kylie brought it. It's a book like this, and inside it has every breed of rabbit. And I think Mr. Dolan's going to cover some of that, or has in the video,
As in the video.
of different breeds. It tells you exactly what they should look like, how much weight they should be, what their coat should look like. We have flyback coats, we have rollover coat, we have different types of coats, and the fur does different things on the different rabbits. You could breed for that specifically. Caroline, you're breeding for docility and showmanship. We are breeding to meet that standard so that when you come to us and say, I want to get a mini satin from you for fair, we can hand you that mini satin and we know you're going to have a good quality rabbit. It's going to meet those standards of perfection so that when you walk up to the show table, you aren't taking a rabbit that is not quality. And that's what we want,
I
right?
actually have a rabbit who did get best of breed at the
Yes, we
County
did.
Fair.
We did. We had a good
So
year last year.
that proves you want to have good show quality babies from that rabbit.
Yes, that like Hunter said, he has one that was, did you say reserve?
Yeah, reserve grand champion.
Reserve grand champion Hunter had and was going to nationals, right?
Oh, that's that one.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You
Oh,
had,
that
he,
that was going to nationals last year, but canceled due to COVID.
right, but you have that rabbit and you're breeding off that rabbit, right?
Yeah.
So,
Our dwarfs too, we won.
come up, yeah, come
Okay,
up, come
so-
guys.
So we've all kind of done really well. Caroline's got best of breed. Hunter, you won best in show at fair one year.
Yeah, I've got best of breed, I think, 3 years.
Mhm.
We're going the wrong way.
There.
We don't know, yeah, come up. We'll share the stage because here's the thing. That's kind of what I was going into in the beginning. I'm gonna let them talk here a minute about their breeds. But this rabbit program is such a warm community. We would not have our rabbitry had it not been for Kylie and Ryan at Skunk River Rabbitry. She is our mama doe for all of our Netherland dwarfs. So I'm gonna let you guys talk for a minute about yours. Breeding, quick, sorry.
Okay. So yeah, so like Amy Sarah said, there is it the doe that you have here?
No,
Not today?
but that's her
Okay.
baby.
Oh, okay. So the doe that we gave, that I sold them is like their main breeding doe that they use. She was actually my baby. So I think she's like a second generation baby from our rabbitry. So her mom was also our baby. So I've been breeding for a long time, and it takes a long time to develop that breed standard. And like my dad said earlier, I've been doing it for 10 years, and probably breeding for 8 or 9. And it's taken that long. I think I won best in show at an ARBA show in Illinois. Oh, was it 2014, 2015?
Yeah.
Quite a few years ago with one of my Netherland dwarf bucks. And I guess I didn't really talk about my Netherland dwarfs because Amy, Sarah, and Caroline was talking about them, but that's my main breed that I have in my rabbitry. And that's the one that I'm really knowledgeable about.
We're gonna reunite you quick. You can hold cash.
Okay, so the doe, so this is their baby. And the doe, his mom was my baby that I sold them. So, and a lot of the Netherland dwarf breeders in Washington that have gotten rabbits from us. So, like I guess Hunter and like Caroline eventually they'll probably sell to future, maybe you guys or future showmen in the rabbit community. And like Amy Sarah said, it is a very, very like welcoming species area to be in. Everybody is super, super helpful and are really willing to work with you. And if you ever need help breeding or grooming, stuff like that, everybody's willing to help. So yeah. And then I guess the buck that won best in show a couple years ago, he won best in show at a fair. And then I used to have Triantas, which are red rabbit. I had one of them win reserve in show one year. I had another Netherland dwarf that won reserve in show as well. So it's fun. Taking a long time to
We're thankful.
grow your rabbitry, and yeah, it's hard work. But
As Amy said, I don't want to give, like, if I sell a rabbit to somebody for show, I don't want to give them a piece of crap. So I try and give them like one of the best rabbits I have. So I raised red mini Rex is the main color I raised, and I got one that got reserve grand champion in 2019, and I sold one of one of his kids to one of our friends' daughters, and they got third in the show last year at the Washington County Fair and even beat us. So
Awesome.
it's just, we would never have been here without all the people in the community, like Mike Todd. He helped us throughout the first couple of years, and we even borrowed nesting boxes from him. He just kind of helped us get and start up on our feet. So
Great
It
job,
was
Hunter. You reminded me about the nesting box.
Yeah.
Right on.
So there's different kinds of nesting boxes. This one's wood. We use metal ones. But so that's kind of what it'll look like whenever they start pulling hair. They'll mix it with the hay, and that's where they'll have the babies. And usually the babies will probably be like down in the back or in the like bottom of all of that stuff to keep them warm. So
So, thank you guys so much. See what I mean? We have such an awesome community, and yeah, we would not have any success that we have without Mr. Dolan, Mr. Todd, Mr. Hiller, Mr. Morrison, Kylie, Annie. I mean, literally everybody in the rabbit barn. All you have to do is whoever's standing there, ask a question, and they will help you. And if they don't know, they'll find somebody. So super quick to kind of reel this all together. If you're thinking about breeding rabbits, have a goal of why you want to breed. Do your research. Research the breeding, research about breeds, research about business practices, research about biosecurity. Create a plan. Have a plan. Like, don't just go into it willy-nilly. Invest in your foundation stock. That's important. I know, I think we just saw on the 4-H Facebook page, the grand champion from 2020 fair has been bred, and is that a full Rex or a mini Rex? Of Allie's. It's a full Rex.
Yep.
And I believe she still had some kits for sale. Ask around, obviously calling the extension office, talking to Amy, and asking who is the superintendent, Mr. Dolan. Ask around Mr. Todd, call any of us. We will get you to the place you want to go. If you're looking for a specific breed, we know who those breeders are. We will gladly refer those to you. And then get involved, get in our team. You can watch the video for all of the rabbit breeding stuff. We feel like it's important to tell you, kits are baby rabbits. They stay with mom until they're how old? 6 to 8 weeks, and then they're weaned. Like Hunter said, mom pulls the fur. We build the box. We put it in there. She does the rest. We check our pregnant does. We have 3 right now that are due today. We check them in the morning, and then we'll check them every 3 hours until we start seeing lots of fur. When we see lots of fur, we start checking about every 30 minutes to every hour. It's very rare to see a kindling. They usually happen at night. Usually I go out about midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'll find a rabbit. Once in a while, we'll have them in the early morning. The rabbits breed better when? Best time for rabbit breeding is what time of year?
Spring and fall.
Right now, that's right. Extremely hot weather and extremely cold weather doesn't make for good breeding. You can breed, it can happen. It will happen. It's easier and more successful. Love is in the air in the springtime. Let's see.
In the summer and winter, does like keeping the kids warm? Is that
Yes.
what you do?
Warm and cool.
Warm and cool. Good point,
Yeah.
Caroline. Can you overheat a kit?
Yes,
Yes, you can. And
Happen.
because
Yeah.
something I think too, I was thinking when you guys were talking about that circulation in the air, I always tell my kids when they're going out to the shed, we have a thermometer in our shed. They check it every single time they're out there. And I always say, remember, they're wearing fur coats. It's easy to forget, but rabbits' temperature is regulated through their ears, and their whole body is a fur coat. So we might be cold in the shed, but to them it might be temperate, and that might be what they like. So you just always want to stay within your breed, what they like. Then let's see, when the kits are born, Caroline, We know they're born because what do we see in the nesting box? Or what do we see in the cage, in the pen?
Sometimes they will be born on the wire, and that means on literally the bottom of the wire of the cage. Sometimes you just gotta check inside the box, and if you feel things like babies, then you know they're born.
And what are we looking for when with our kids in our nesting box? What are we looking for? What do we want to see?
We want to see big babies, have nice full bellies, nice and warm.
Yes, absolutely. Those are the things we want to see. Like Hunter said, you probably didn't hear, he said, not dead ones. Yes, if you find a dead baby, you remove it immediately. That's part of the planning process. Something that you might get excited about. Bunnies are cute, they're furry. We went to Farm King the other day. They just had a brand new shipment in. Mr. Dolan talks about where those come from in his video. But you don't, when you have a dead baby, you remove it. So you have a plan ahead of time of what you're going to do when you have a dead rabbit. Another issue we have with dwarf rabbits is,
Peanuts.
there you go, sister. And what is it? Where does the peanut come from?
It comes from when the baby is born. They're born with a dwarf gene, and sometimes peanuts will be born with 2 dwarf genes, which means they will never grow and they will just stay the same. So
That's right. And eventually they will die. Some live for hours, some live for a couple of weeks, but rarely over a couple of weeks. I mean, I don't know anybody that's,
You want to see a peanut in your breeding program.
but you don't want them time after
No.
time
No.
No, well, you if you have them, you know your genetics are good
are good, right?
because the dwarf gene is present.
But they will die eventually.
Correct.
They
Oh,
don't, they're
guaranteed.
not a strong, a
And-
peanut.
And if
sorry.
they do survive, they usually come with a health problem.
Right. Okay,
Yeah, and the mini Rex, I want to see a peanut.
you want to see them, but
I want-
you don't
You
expect them
keep
to
'cause
live.
they're not- they
Right,
won't-
okay, so, sorry, this is why I listen to everything they say, because,
See one in like, I mean, with like the dwarf.
come in, Kylie, they gotta see you, because they know I'm looking at you.
Okay, so with the dwarf rabbits, she's talking about the peanuts. I pretty much see a peanut we see a peanut in most of our litters. It's just a part of, just like any species, it's just a part of breeding. It's not abnormal. It's not really a surprise. If you have like the bigger rabbits, you're not going to see that. But with the Netherland dwarfs, Holland Lops, Mini Rex, and then dwarf Hotos is another dwarf breed that all carry that dwarf gene. It's just something that you'll see, and they don't survive. But like Mike said, you know that the dwarf gene is present in both of your rabbits, so
That's a good thing.
it's a good thing. Yeah.
Awesome.
See, and I would say too, with rabbit breeding, I mean, it helps prepare a kid because not every baby rabbit is going to live. There's going to be death. There's going to be problems. And so, it kind of prepares a child for some of that stuff. You help learn about it. It can be frustrating, but that's all part of rabbit breeding. Something that you have to experience, and you'll be better for it.
And not every rabbit in the litter will be show quality. You could have a litter of 5 Dutch and they all have the wrong ring on their belly, and they're all will have to be called. None of them will be showable. So just because you have 5 don't mean they're all showable. You may only have 1 that's good, but you don't know that till you raise them about 3 months of age.
Anything else to add on that?
I think just making sure, again, you're feeding, oh, sorry.
Yep.
I feel like I'm in Hunter's way. You want to make sure that food, water, and hay is how important. Like that's the
most
majority
important
of our
thing.
lives with rabbits, cleaning and feeding, just like a new mom and new dad. The hay, I think, was important. I have to sometimes write notes to myself. Grass, not alfalfa. And then I'll even have to call back and say, what did you tell me? We have a system now, we have people, but I would say, I was talking to Kylie earlier, shop local. We have plenty of farmers here who have grass hay, good grass hay. If you're buying feed, check your feed. I know Kylie talked about it in her video. You want it dry. There should be not moisture in there. You don't want to feed your rabbits mildew. Breeding rabbits has been a joy for us. but it's also tricky. And that's where Kylie and Mr. Dolan, Mr. Todd, Hunter, that's where the whole team comes in. So we thank you very much for all your help and time.
Thank you very much.
Here, I'll grab
I'm
the
gonna
rest.
have Mike Todd jump in here quick to talk about Rabbit Show Day.
So on show day at the fair, the rabbit show starts at 9 o'clock. At about 8:45, Chad will have a exhibitors meeting with all the exhibitors. And all exhibitors will be dressed in your 4-H shirt with it tucked in. And we will have a brief meeting and we will start at 9 o'clock. We will announce the day of the show. If 4 class rabbits are going first or 6 class. A lot of that depends on the weather.
What is briefly 4 class and 65?
4 class, I don't know if that was in the videos. 4 class is your smaller breeds, your Holland Lop, Mini Rex, New Zealand, Florida White,
Florida White.
Florida Whites, your Netherlands, your Mini Satins, your
Norfolk
Polish.
Doe.
Those are all your 4 breed rabbits. 6 class is your Flemish Giants, Californian, New Zealand. Yeah, I think New Zealand's are in there. I can't remember on that one. But anyway, we'll decide that morning, depending a lot on the weather. We all know it's hot. And so we'll make that announcement. So what we'll do, there'll be a program that Amy will print off at the extension office. We'll hand it out to your parents. Chad and I and the people running the table will have one. The announcer will call out, if we're starting 4 class, she may call, she needs all senior Mini Rex to the table, senior bucks, senior buck Mini Rex. So if you have senior buck Mini Rex, you'll be standing by your cage. Everyone will stand by their their cage before they start. And then you'll bring up your Mini Rex. If you have 3 of them, ask another 4-H'er to help you. Ask a volunteer. One of us on the rabbit committee will help you. But you'll take your rabbits up to the judging table, and the judge, once they're all up there, if there's 10, we'll make sure there's 10 senior bucks up there. The judge will go through them. He'll award your ribbons. The winner, the top senior buck will stay on the table most likely. Depends how many we have. Then he'll do senior does, junior bucks, junior does. He'll narrow it down to 4 of that breed, the top 4. He'll pick a best of Mini Rex and a reserve Mini Rex. He'll take them back. We'll move on to the next breed. And that's how the whole show will run through class 4, class 6. When they're done, they'll pick an overall class 4 champion, a class 4 reserve champion, class 6 champion, class 6 reserve champion. Then they'll have overall for the show 4 and 6. They'll take the top 2 and pick one for the whole show. When that's all done, then we start showmanship. And I really like to see all of you do showmanship. It
Yes.
is a
Do
great thing.
showmanship.
Yes.
It's
Come on.
Get in there.
Showmanship's
Yeah,
important because
it's
it
really
teaches.
fun.
It is fun, and
Yeah.
it shows your knowledge of your rabbit, your breed, all rabbits, as far as that goes. So study your standard of perfection. You can check it out here at the extension office. There is a new one. Came out in January
Yeah.
the 2021. I don't have it yet.
No, we don't either.
You can get it for your phone now through ARBA website and download it to your phone.
They did-
Washington County Extension got theirs this week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you're ahead of us. But
Kylie, like, just give a little brief on what you learned from showmanship.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say, Mike said do showmanship. I will tell you again, do showmanship. So when I started 4-H, I would probably consider myself, I was pretty shy, kind of quiet, and like showmanship was like the last thing I wanted to do. I did not want to stand up there with that judge and talk to him. I did not want just not. And like now I can stand in front of you guys and talk. And I'm fully confident going up there and talking to that judge. So showmanship more than anything is like communication, confidence, and then also learning about your rabbit and just like showing off what you know and like showing the judge, showing everybody in the audience that you know your stuff and that you're like committed and are committed to learning about your breeds. And yeah, it's just really, really fun. And it's a way to grow your knowledge. And yeah, I mean, it took me a long time I won showmanship a couple years ago, but I mean, up until then, it was like nerve-wracking experience every time going up, and I finally was like confident in doing it. I competed at State Fair a couple years in showmanship, and that was kind of nerve-wracking too, but it's, yeah, grown a lot of my communication skills, so highly recommend doing it.
And I think it's accurate to say that you don't have to have the best rabbit. That is,
No.
you are showing the judge your knowledge
Mhm.
and in showmanship, and that you know how to handle a rabbit, whether it's the best of the best or
Yeah.
it's the worst of the worst. You can show a lot of knowledge, and that's what showmanship is about.
Yeah, I mean, you could bring up your absolute worst show rabbit and still win showmanship because it's about you and how you are handling your rabbit, what you know. And then the judge, especially once you get, I guess all of juniors, seniors, and intermediates, the judge will probably like ask questions. And the juniors, they're a lot simpler, like one word type of answers. And then once you get to be a senior, then there are a little bit more.
More
In
into
depth.
disease and
Yeah.
breeding and.
I had a judge
Got a
one
question
year.
over here.
That's all you're gonna, I wanna know what they ask you. Like, it's a
Okay.
secret from the people in the audience. So
So,
ask a question like for each level. Tell us what they would ask a junior.
so as a junior, it's gonna be questions like
How
what,
many claws?
yeah, like how
Claws?
many claws are on the front and back feet of your rabbit, what the color of your rabbit is, and like as a junior, that's might be what they do is just ask a couple questions, and then as an intermediate, the judges kind of expect that you know more about your rabbit, and they might just ask you to talk about your rabbit breed, or talk about your rabbit breed, talk about raising rabbits, and they might not ask super specific questions at first, and then once you talk, then they might ask you, oh goodness, something that's kind of,
Well,
Are
they
you-
started
No.
asking you about how you breed the different colors, but that may have been.
yeah, as
Yeah,
a senior
yeah.
last year, I think it was the year actually that I won showmanship. It would have been 2 or 3 years ago. The judge that we had, I was familiar with him. I had him as a judge before, and so he knew that I'd been showing Netherland Dwarfs for a really long time. And so he actually, if you start raising Netherland Dwarfs, you'll find there are so many color varieties, and they're actually split into 5 different groups of color. So he had me name all the 5 varieties, and you can find all these in the Standard of Perfection, and then actually go through each color of the Netherland Dwarf. And so I ended up naming all of the Netherland Dwarf colors, and that was kind of my challenge that year. And it was challenging because,
Sometimes he has to narrow it down to hard questions
yeah,
to decide his
Mhm.
first place winner.
yep. And so that was one year. And then the next year it was the same judge. So he knew, okay, she knows all these colors. So I'm going to challenge her a little bit. And so in the Netherland Dwarf, there's colors that are dilutes of other colors. So when you're breeding, that rabbit got a dilution gene. So like, for example, a chocolate is a dilute of a black rabbit. And so he was actually asking me, like, this color is a dilute of what color? And that was a challenge because I had never really thought about that before. And some of these colors I don't raise myself. So it was just knowing about the breed in general. But yeah, so that's a pretty advanced like knowledge stuff. But yeah, as a junior and intermediate, it's a lot simpler. Stuff like that.
But I just really good.
Yeah, you can just jump in.
That way they can know. I don't know where I'm at.
Yeah, it's weird.
It is weird. But that's just an example, Kylie, of how much you've grown in the 4-H program
Yeah.
with your rabbits from starting that very first adoptive rabbit and learning to show and learning to answer those tough questions. And I look forward to watching Caroline grow through her program too. And I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
My first rabbit wasn't even a purebred. It was a mutt from a farm in Kelowna. And I think it was an Easter. I got her when I was 7, and she's actually still alive. She's like 10 or 11
Hey.
years old. Still healthy,
Mike's favorite
eating.
rabbit.
Yep,
Like
and
Buster.
she's not a nice rabbit.
No, she isn't.
She's mean. Mike knows because he's taken care of our rabbits before when we're on vacation. And she bites, she scratches, she kicks, and she's still doing that even though she's 10 or 11 years old. So that's who I started with, and now have a 25, 30 rabbitry, and so yeah, it's just growth. Just shows growth.
And you can do that, or you don't have to do that. So not to
Yeah.
be overwhelmed that you don't have to get into breeding and you don't have to have 25 rabbits. You can have 2 and be an expert on 2 and learn and grow and that way too. So there's room for all sizes and styles.
That's where showmanship comes in. You could like Amy said, you could just have like a buck and a doe of one breed or 2 breeds and just be an expert in those breeds and kind of do it. There's so many ways you could raise rabbits. There's not one way at all whatsoever. So
Mike, we'll let you interject more on the rabbit show.
As far as the showmanship goes, just to give you a timeline, so the actual rabbit show usually gets over 11:30, noonish.
Shit.
Realistically, by the time showmanship's over, it's about 1:15. So to give you an idea how that day is gonna be, if you're showing some other species or something. I don't know that it's kind of a brief, but it's pretty thorough. I think we'll help you the day of the show as to how it's gonna run, but bottom line is have fun, make some new friends, talk to your neighbors that have rabbits next to you. If you don't know them, they're another club. Ask them to help you. Take your rabbit up to the table. You may help them. They may need your help. But have fun and meet new people, and you should have a good project. It's a nice, easy project for town people. My daughter, we live in town, and we have 22 rabbits. So it worked out good. So.
Do we have any questions from the people listening?
I'm going to try to navigate you guys here at the computer. So those of you watching, and our speakers, you guys can go to the back table and then we can see everybody really easily. But is anybody still watching that has questions? You can type them into the chat. I think I can see the chat okay. Or if you just want to turn on your cameras, this is a chance to ask any of them or all of them. Any questions that you've heard today? This is kind of a new way of doing it, but it's very often that if one person has a question, they all have a question or similar, so don't hesitate.
Right, so we get some questions, I guess I'd throw out there. What if any of you happen to see an exhibitor trying to breed rabbits in the show barn during Fair Week? What do you think? Okay, step up and
it has happened.
So they can hear you.
Yeah, it's not encouraged. It's not something that should be happening at fair. And it has happened. And I guess just as a senior member, are you a senior yet? Are you intermediate? Even like intermediate or like anybody can just say something. You don't have to be an older member or an adult. It's just respectfully asking, like, not something we do at fair.
It's hot, the rabbits
hot,
are stressed, it ain't necessary.
It just puts more
shouldn't
stress
happen.
on them.
And I would say if you don't feel brave enough to do it yourself, that's okay. Get somebody else. Come find one of us and we'll help you. We'll help.
Yeah, it should definitely be done at home, it's nothing to do with the fair.
Are you guys addressing the tattoo question?
No.
Okay, so a question
Breeding in the show barn.
one question here is there a certain time the rabbit needs to get its ear tattooed?
10 weeks of age or older.
10 weeks of age.
Do mine at 10 weeks.
It is an expectation. I'm glad you bring that up. It is a requirement that your rabbits are tattooed
In the left ear.
in the left ear.
From a small rabbit person, might be a little bit older on the Netherland dwarfs, but it has to be done before show.
Right.
Can't show a rabbit without a tattoo.
I find the
Anywhere.
younger the better for us.
Yeah.
When you're right.
Yeah.
Like everybody's just kind of getting at the rabbit has to grow to allow you to do an adequate tattoo. And if you do it too young and the rabbit's still growing, that can, as that ear grows, it can change things.
Hunter
So,
wants to touch on
but
this.
Hunter's got
There are
something to
two
add.
different types of tattooing. There's a clamp, which is a whole bunch of like holes, and then you press that in ink and then clamp it into the ear, and you can just basically it's just like a whole bunch of dots that create letters, and that's a tattoo. And then there's a pen. You can just basically write in their ear. And before you do with the pen, what we were told is to like kind of practice on the inside of a banana peel, and
Mm.
since it's similar to the rabbit ear, and that's
Just
what we
don't
use to
wiggle.
practice.
We do have the punch style here at the extension office for checkout. And so that would be something that you would be welcome to check out from the extension office for free if you're wanting to do that. And Kyla will show you, this is what that tattoo would look
You see
like.
it? Yep.
There you go.
This is the one that's I didn't actually tattoo him. His other owner did before we had him. But yeah, it just looks like that's the pen tattoo. And it pretty much looks like you wrote with a Sharpie or pen in their ear. And yeah, I guess it just takes practice, especially that one, because rabbits don't like it.
And we will
pretty
absolutely
wiggly.
connect you with any one of these people in the room to help you, because that is very overwhelming. I have watched it from a distance at workshops before. And so if you are just getting started, we have people who can help. So don't feel like that's something you have to navigate on your own, but we definitely have some of those supplies here that can assist with that process. When you are registering your animals in 4-H Online, which you are supposed to do by May 15th, it will ask you for that tattoo. And so you will be required to put that in at that time. And there's no rhyme or reason to what you pick. Letters, numbers, is there?
No symbols like exclamation points or hashtags or anything like that are not allowed. Numbers and letters only.
On the 4-H online, you have baby rabbits. You don't know if it's a boy or a girl. You have tattoo 1, 2, 3. Enter it 1, 2, 3 as a boy, 1, 2, 3 as a girl before May 15th. Don't enter it as a boy. It comes to the fair, we sex it. It's a girl, you can't show it.
So a lot of people will
So do
just
a double entry for
Yep.
that number.
put one of each to make sure that you have it covered. Yeah, excellent.
Happened to us.
I've seen
We will
it
say
happen.
thanks to you.
I'll throw out a question. Kylie has a Holland box with a white nail. What if she decided to color it with a black magic marker? What would people think of that? Is that something we should allow?
Caroline, we just did our YQCA training and that had a segment on it.
Yeah.
Can you color your rabbit? The answer is
No.
That's
no.
unethical.
What if your rabbit has a white spot and it's pretty good size, maybe the size of a dime, and you decide to pluck it with the tweezers? Is that a good idea?
No.
Also, no, unethical, and very good. Those are topics that are addressed in YQCA. We have another question here that asked, where can you find the videos that were made? I will be sharing that out with all of the Rabbit members again through email, but on our 4-H YouTube page, I have created a playlist, a Rabbit playlist. And so I think we have 10 videos in there right now. And then today I will, or sometime, this weekend, we'll figure out and get this transferred into there and uploaded as well. And as we continue to have those happen and be done, we will add to that. So that'll be a place that you can go anytime for free and see those videos and get more information. And we will continue to remind you as rabbit exhibitors, those are there to help. And then another question also came in, is it okay just to have one rabbit?
Sure.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely okay to have one rabbit.
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect.
The answer is you can't just have one. You'll find that out.
You might love them too much and you need more than one, but you can absolutely register and own only one rabbit. That is acceptable. Now, I know we are getting past our time limits, that are time expectations, and we know some of you might have to check out. So I just want to give another opportunity for any questions from you in the audience. I know this group could talk all day and teach you, and So when there are questions that come about, please feel free, if you know them and want to reach out to any of them, I know I can share their contact information with you if you were to call the office as well. And we will help get answers to you throughout. I don't see any other questions coming in. So is there any final notes you want to make for the group?
Well, I would just say thanks for joining us today. Get in contact with Amy, or she'll be sending out an email either way, so that you can access those videos, and definitely take a look at those because they give more in-depth and precise information than we were able to share here today. This is really just a synopsis. Look at those videos and you can get into the detail really well. And then, of course, the American Rabbit Breeders Association website is a good resource. So go there. You can learn about different breeds, illnesses, anything that we've talked about. So definitely check that out. So thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.
Good luck at fair.
Bye. Good luck.